And we definitely got the message from the CTO from the FCC that he's expecting widespread deployment by October 2019.
Welcome to Telecom Disruptors, a podcast that takes a closer look at the people and technology that is changing the way the world communicates. This is Alan Percy with Telco Bridges, and we're here at SIPNOC event 2018, and I'm here today with Jim Dalton of TransNexus. And Jim, thanks for spending a few minutes with me again today.
Thanks, Alan.
So before we get started, there's obviously been a lot that's gone on this week at the event, and we're going to do a quick summary of the event and what it means to preventing robocalls today. Jim, just since it's the first time you joined us on a podcast, maybe just a quick introduction of you and your company, and then we'll get into what happened this week.
Thanks, Alan. What TransNexus does, we're a software service provider. We serve telephone service companies, service providers, and our software is used for least cost routing, toll fraud detection, for protection for inbound robocalls, and what we've added as a new feature is support for shaken, to be able to add SIP identity tokens to SIP invites leaving the network and to verify inbound identity tokens that are entering a network.
Fantastic. Well, as we discussed, this has been a 3-day conference. The first day was pretty much committed 100% to the robocall problem. We heard from FCC chairman, we heard from the CRTC, we've heard from some of the larger organizations, and I think our analysis from discussing this was we've probably reached a tipping point in the market. So I'm curious as to what your thoughts are with stir shaken and with the robocall problem.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to speak to providers at this conference and all the participants. I mean, it's definitely happening, and the major players, AT&T, Comcast, and Verizon, they're definitely telling the story that it's implemented in their network. They're in trials now, and they're going to go live in production next year. I mean, that's what they're saying publicly, and they're certainly sending that message to the regulators. And for everyone else, there's a lot of activity, and I think carriers are really putting this into their plans to support actively next year in some way. At least that's what I'm hearing. And we definitely got the message from the CTO from the FCC that he's expecting widespread deployment by October 2019.
And of course, this has all kinds of ripple ramifications. So if the majors implement stir shaken, that means they're going to start delivering either some kind of indication that a call has got a shaken token attached to it and that it's a valid call. And that puts a little pressure on the Tier 2 and Tier 3 providers, right?
It does, and I think there's some angst that this is a really huge problem. I think that's what some service providers feel. But what we've heard here, what's the deployments that are being rolled out, the good news is it's really pretty simple. And really the key point, the network element that's the place to implement shaken is the session border controller. That's what we heard in the presentations. And really, it's not that difficult. It's a simple policy to add to a session border controller. And there are certainly legacy session border controllers that are in networks today don't have these features, but it is not a major upgrade. It's going to be a software upgrade or go to a vendor that supports that new feature. And it's not a major upgrade to the network. You have to change your entire architecture. It's not that at all. It's really an add-on to the session border controller for authenticating calls and verifying calls. So the good news is we don't think it's really that difficult for a network service provider to support in the kind of time frame that regulators expect.
Well, we talked and we had a webinar earlier this year where we presented the basics of a tutorial on stir shaken, which has been widely watched and seems to be one of our more popular videos. And I think it's probably time for us to do a webinar to explain exactly how to do the implementation. So we've discussed, and we'll look forward to in the spring here putting together a webinar to show step by step how to implement stir shaken. And I look forward to your participation in that. So maybe in a nutshell, just give a quick overview of what you're thinking we'll be able to cover in those kinds of materials.
I tell you, the obvious thing to present is just how easy it is to get this shaken support into the call flow of SIP messaging. And FreeSBC is a great platform to do that because you don't have to necessarily pull out your existing SBCs. You can put it in line in your network between your soft switch and your existing SBC infrastructure. And the SIP identity tokens can be added or verified at that point. So it's I think service providers, we can demonstrate to them in a webinar how easily it can be added to their existing architecture. And for the TDM carriers that say they just can't do it, a SIP to TDM gateway immediately gives support for the shaken requirements of regulators, and that's not a heavy lift.
Well, I look forward to working with you on that. We'll certainly be publishing more about this event on our social media tracks and, of course, as part of our newsletters, and give everyone a chance to hear how it should be done and how easy it is, and I appreciate all your work on it. So with that, Jim, I'm going to say thanks for spending a couple of minutes with you, and also, too, good to see you again here at the event, and look forward to the next time.
Great. Thanks, Alan.
All right.
If you like what you heard, be sure to click on subscribe to hear more episodes.